Hi everyone, Chelsea Tucker here from ChangeYourChelsea.com. Glad that you're here today. Today I want to talk about holding yourself and others to high standards and what does that look like and what does that mean and is that okay and blah 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 blah. Hey, by the way, make sure that you're liking, subscribing, commenting because it tells YouTube we like her and more people get to see my content. So what does it mean? Now, high standards. It could be anything, honestly. Like, okay, are you putting the dishes in the dishwasher correctly? Do you put the forks this way or do you put them this way? And why or why not? And blah, blah, blah. Right? And if you're going to hold somebody that kind of standard, your relationship's not going to work. I don't care what relationship it is. You're going to just piss the other person off and they're going to say, deuces. And you're going to be like, oh, right. I have to be a decent human being and not be that way. And I talk about it that way because honestly, when you get into marriage for the first time, I would say the first 5 years are the most crucial time because during those 5 years, you're merging your finances, you're learning how to work with one another, you're creating these different systems that will work for you and your spouse. Who's working for money, right? You probably have maybe a baby or two within those first couple years. And it's really, really stressful. And if you're holding yourself to a high standard and then now you're expecting your spouse to be held to that same high standard, it doesn't work. You're gonna piss somebody off, right? In plain terms, it's not gonna work. So how do you, as an individual, say, okay, this is what I want to obtain and or do. This is what you're doing. Our lives have to meet, right? We have to grow. And how do I not either leave you in the dust on something or not? And this is, I think, a crucial point too, because you can have an interest and your spouse can have an interest, right? You guys don't have to be fully on the same thing for all of the things. Why? Because if he likes working on his truck and you like listening to me on YouTube and he doesn't, there's nothing wrong with that, okay? So don't say okay, you can't work on your truck anymore because you have to be learning about what Chelsea Tucker's talking about. No, I don't. I don't have to do that, right? There's some things that are just unrealistic, unworthy. Okay, don't do that. But growth it's important, right? But how are we each growing? You're gonna have your strengths. He's gonna have his strengths. You're gonna have your weaknesses. He's gonna have your weaknesses. His weaknesses. So the point is to get rid of the weaknesses, but to grow, right? And growing in different areas is great because if you have one person that's really good at this, one person that kind of knows about this, you guys are gonna both go like this because you have two. It's better than one because he has his strengths, you have your strengths, and you guys can grow together. Now, not only on the spousal side of this whole thing, but what about your kids, right? I mean, are you pushing them so hard all of the time that they're not meeting the expectations of you? Gotta think about that, right? It's really, really difficult. Now, I'm not saying you shouldn't make them clean up their toys, okay? That's, I think, a normal expectation, right? For children, we have to have expectations within their mental capacity, right? If you take toys out, you should be able to put them back. Okay, now how do we do that, right? So if you have a bin, okay, a bin is easier for maybe a 1-year-old to put the toys in the bin. But if you're asking them to put a book upright in a bookshelf, that's going to be a little bit more difficult, right? Their motor skills may not be that precise. So you can't ask them to do that, right? You have to have realistic expectations. And honestly, they'll do it. It's just, it'll take some time, and it takes time on your part too, because you have to teach them, you have to encourage them, you have to do all this different stuff, and you can do it, it's possible, but unrealistic stuff is just not possible. And don't don't do it, because you're going to stress yourself out, you're going to stress them out. There's a right amount of pressure and there's a wrong amount of pressure, and you got to know the balance. And it's really, really important, because we don't want to leave anybody in the dust, right? We don't want to hurt anybody. And also, like, you have to understand, like, you're not going to be growing in certain areas where somebody else might be growing in other areas. So you have to grow together, and you have to let those other people be able to be what they need to be, and you be what you need to be. And your family unit will work amazingly once, like, these things start to click. So my whole point of this video is to really get you to understand that each person has to grow in their own time. Measurable calls, right? We need something to measure their growth. That's important. And clear communication will definitely help. And I'll talk about that in another video, because clear communication, I think, is very, very difficult to fully understand, because we all have different ideas of what it might look like versus, like, factual stuff that it, like, will look like. So I'll make a video about clear communication soon. And so I just hope that this encourages you and educates you and motivates you to just get unrealistic expectations out of your head, and really understand good expectations, and how to grow within that. And so I will see you next one. Bye, guys.